Welcome to the Healthful Woman podcast. Today is Monday, March 15th, 2021. I'm joined today by Fortune Dushey to talk about influencers and wellness. Fortune is a popular influencer on Instagram, and we talk about how she became an influencer and how influencers have partially replaced traditional marketing and celebrity endorsements. We also discuss her decision to include blogs and posts about mental health, nutrition, and exercise, and the impact she has on the overall health and wellness of her followers. I find this topic fascinating, and Fortune is an amazing and thoughtful influencer, so I think you'll appreciate her take on it. If you want to follow Fortune on Instagram, she is at Fortune Dushey, that's Dushey, and her website is www.fortuneinspired.com. On Thursday, our high-risk birth story is with Fortune Faham. Yes, both guests this week are named Fortune. How about that? Fortune and I are going to be discussing the birth of her twins 12 years ago, as well as her births before and after. As the mother of 8 children, Fortune has an amazing perspective on grief, joy, and faith. So definitely be on the lookout for high-risk birth stories on Thursday. Reminder, we're going to have a Healthful Woman podcast every Monday and a high-risk birth story every Thursday. So be sure to subscribe to both podcasts. And if you're on Apple, we would really appreciate you giving us a 5-star rating on both podcasts. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.
Welcome to today's episode of Healthful Woman, a podcast designed to explore topics in women's health at all stages of life. I'm your host, Dr. Nathan Fox, an OBGYN and maternal fetal medicine specialist practicing in New York City. At Healthful Woman, I speak with leaders in the field to help you learn more about women's health, pregnancy, and wellness. All right, Fortune Dushey, influencer. How are you? Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This is my very first podcast, so I'm super excited to be here and to be here with you.
Oh, that's so amazing. So we got connected, I guess, through my wife, through Michal. She knows you and follows you and said, oh, you should talk to Fortune. You should talk to Fortune. So
Michal's a superstar in my eyes, so I'm so happy that she connected us.
I agree. Excellent. So just who are you? Just a brief story of where you came from, where you are, and sort of what you're doing.
My name is Fortune Dushey, born and raised in New Jersey by the shore. Not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's my hometown. I went to NYU. I majored in speech communications, got married right after, had 3 children, almost 16, almost 19, and 22. When I got married, I started working for a magazine. It was called Mode. It was a fashion beyond size or something like that. It was like for women for size 12 and over. So I did that for a few years, got pregnant. And then when I was raising my children, I kind of just took different classes, handbag design, journalism classes. I even got my bartending license.
Cool.
And then when my kids were all in school, I was really interested in designing my own handbags, but I really wasn't sure. So I actually hired a life coach. Mm-hmm. I decided to intern for Carlos Fauci at the time. They ended up hiring me. And then I started kind of writing up a business plan. And I realized that it was just a huge commitment because even though my kids were in school full time, I just felt like I couldn't give it my all. And so at the time, a friend of mine suggested that I start personal shopping. So that kind of became a business just through word of mouth and me putting myself out there. And then at the time, my life coach, who I was still working with, had suggested I start a blog. And I always say, people say, why did you start? How did you start? And I said, it just takes one person to believe in you, to think that you can do it. And she just felt like, she's like, Fortune, you have great style. You're funny. I think it'll be a great platform for you to express yourself. In the beginning, I was still styling and I kind of had this blog that I was doing on the side. But the more I did it, the more time I was putting into it. And then I started to invest money, whether that was like with photography or just even having somebody proofread my posts, So at some point I had to make a decision which way I wanted to go. And I just felt so passionate about the blog, about sharing things that I'm inspired by, things that I love, things that I think would, just help my followers, whether it was wellness or travel tips or, what the best denim jacket is to buy. So I kind of decided to go full throttle with that about 3 years ago. And I'm really happy with it.
Where were you blogging originally? Like in what platform, what medium were you using for your blog? Was it just on a website?
It was both website and Instagram. Those were and still are my main channels for posting.
Right. And so when you got on Instagram, I guess you got it on the early side in terms of, posting, blogging, influencing. It depends who I ask. So I'm asking you. You tell me.
Some people will say it was a few years before I entered, but I think there's always space. I mean, even for people today that, people will tell me, well, there's so many, bloggers out there. And, what I've been told and what I tell people is that there's space for everyone. It's like having, an idea for a new fashion brand. Everybody is always interested in seeing the new best thing, or everybody has a different angle, a different niche. And I just think there's room for everyone.
Right. And then when did your listeners or followers, when did that start to really grow and to pick up in numbers? Was that right away or did it take some time?
Oh, God, it was definitely a slow process. Because I wasn't doing it full time and that wasn't my main focus. I think it was gradual. It took like 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years. I mean, I just this past spring hit 10,000. So it's been a slow and steady process. And I'm okay with it because I feel like my following is loyal and they're real and it's solid.
I think the term that everyone uses, I'm going to use this idea of an influencer. Right. That's a new term that's come about recently. Can you explain what exactly does that even mean? Like who gets labeled an influencer?
People that have a certain following, I guess, people that have a following that actually listen and care and follow their advice. I mean, anybody can call themselves an influencer. I guess I don't think about myself as an influencer, but I guess if you're putting things out there and people are really taking your advice and giving you feedback, which I do get, I mean, I guess so.
I mean, the reason I wanted to talk to you for this podcast, obviously you're just interesting, so it's great to talk, but the way I think it's related to the idea of what we're doing here is your influencing, your posting, your blogs has become more than just products. It's more than just what denim jacket, should you get. It's really, it touches on a lot of bigger life topics. We were discussing this before and I was reading them ideas of, about hope, about gratitude, about giving, and then there's also about health and mental health and all of these things that I view as part of, health and healthful and wellness. And it's just fascinating that you have this position where you have such literally an influence on people and on their wellness and their overall health. And I just think it's a fascinating topic because this didn't exist before, really.
I guess my main reason for sharing any of it, my inspiration is really because I never want people to feel that they're alone. I think when you're putting yourself out there, you're kind of putting out a certain lifestyle, right? I mean, you're not showing your life 24/7. You're showing, the outfit that you bought or the trip that you just took. And I think that sometimes people get the sense that there's like this perfect life that's happening. Right. And so I kind of want to kind of show that that's not reality. Right. Just because I'm showing you certain things, it doesn't mean that certain things aren't going on. And so it's like, I don't want anybody to feel alone. I don't want anyone to feel that I'm not experiencing heartache, that I'm not experiencing sadness, that I didn't have a fight with my husband before I just, wrote, I don't know, like what I had for breakfast or this was so yummy. So that's really my main reason, because I think that sometimes we can feel alone. And I also think when I'm feeling gratitude, I want to share those tips of, how I got to feeling grateful or certain things that work for me. So that's really my reason.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know that Michal would always tell a story when she was at Ramaz and she was giving this talk about parenting, right? So she has a group of people listening who are, moms and dads and maybe some grandparents also. And she's talking about, how to handle, the child with a tantrum and all these things that everyone wants to know. And we're parents. And she would do this whole thing. And at the end, she would say, oh, by the way, just so you know, on the way to school today, I told my daughter I'm going to throw her out the window of the car. And so don't think that this works for everybody. Right. Like, this is hard stuff. And I do think it's the same idea that when you're sort of putting out things that are, happy and sunshine, but if you only do that selectively, it gives people the false impression that you live a life that's different from everybody else in the world. And that's not true.
Right. Look, the purpose of my blog is to inspire. I mean, I didn't set out to be a wellness or a mental health blog when I
Right.
started, but I just think it's important to kind of show real life moments and that there is no such thing as a perfect life.
Do you have a sense of like which people follow you or how they choose to follow you specifically? Like, is there a certain demographic, or have you found something that unites them, or is it really just random all over the place and it's hard to figure that out?
I think part of it is word of mouth. As you grow, there's kind of like an algorithm and people could see who you're liking and then they can kind of check out my feed, also through business. Just from my analytics, I know that a big portion of my followers are from New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's like New York, Miami, LA,
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta. There are a few others from other countries, but it's predominantly US, predominantly New York,
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey. And actually the demographic is interesting. It's like anywhere from like 25 to 44 is majority, but then, you also have the 50s age group, maybe 80% female, 20% male, which is interesting.
This podcast.
Oh, really?
Literally to the T.
That's so funny.
Age, gender,
All right,
location.
I'm at the right place.
Apparently. I didn't even know that. But yeah, but I was also asking just sort of in terms of what they're looking for. Meaning like what are they looking for when they come to you as opposed to someone else's,
So what I get,
site?
I mean, maybe I guess certain people come for different things. I think it's for fashion, but what I get a lot is that people feel like I'm real.
Right.
That makes me happy. I don't really post anything that I myself wouldn't use or wouldn't wear, or at least wouldn't try. So I try to keep it very authentic. I won't really work with a brand that I don't feel comfortable putting my face behind,
Right.
which sometimes could get sticky because I never want to hurt anyone's feelings. So it's very tricky. I think it's the realness, maybe, and my, I guess, sense of style that have people coming.
And do you have a lot of interaction back and forth on Instagram? Like people leave
I do.
comments and questions and
I
you're
do.
back and forth with them?
People DM me, if they have questions with something that I posted or with a trip that I just took. Yeah.
When we were growing up, the way products we had to advertise was essentially either they put a commercial on TV or on the radio or in a magazine or maybe a billboard, right? And that was it. And if there was a person behind it, like it was a movie star or a sports star or someone famous, you didn't really have products where just a regular person, so to speak, is saying, hey, I like this, I believe in it. And the interesting thing is, I think that this model that we're in now is much more effective because, I mean, honestly, like it's cool that Michael Jordan might like something, but what do I care, right? What does he have to do with me? But if there's someone who I know, or I feel like I know and I trust and I understand, who she or he is, and there's recommending
more relatability.
and means more. And it is, I guess it does give you that sort of, I guess, responsibility of choosing which products you're going to back because you're really putting your name behind it. It's not just like you're a celebrity saying, oh, but get this watch. You actually say, I like this. I would wear this.
I used it. Yes. And if I don't, then I will actually post that. A lovely woman just sent me collagen powder and she asked me to post it. And I said, right now I'm kind of like taking a lot of vitamins. I'm on a regimen. I'm not really sure I can add this. I'll be more than happy to post it on stories for you. And I did that because it was a friend of a friend. Otherwise, you're kind of like nonstop posting. And it's a lot of work on my end. But, I put that out there. I said, I haven't tried it, but check this out if you'd like. So I try to be as transparent as possible.
Right. And it's interesting. I wanted to go into sort of the role of an influencer in that sense, that I guess at the core of it, or maybe not the core, but the base of it is it's like product placement, where essentially it's a business where you have a lot of people who trust you and follow you, and products will say, hey, take a look at this, whatever it is, and you'll look at it, try it yourself. And if you like it, you'll place it and they pay you. And if you don't like it, you don't place it. And that's sort of the business model of it, right? And then have you found that aspect has grown? You're getting more and more requests and products are coming to you?
Yes. Yes, I would say so. Something else that I will do is I'll say, well, send me the product. Let me try it.
Right.
I'll post it. And then we can kind of grow organically. And so that's another route that I take when I'm not so sure. I'm really interested in working with the brand, but I'm not sure that particular product will work for me.
Right. So you sort of test the waters.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that you sort of go into, like you said, is this personal. information about you and your life and a vacation you took or something that's going on with your family. Was it hard doing this at first, sharing personal information with so many people? Like, did you feel hesitant about that?
Every single post, every single story I think about. And it's funny because I don't really post my children. I don't really post my husband. And it's definitely an internal dialogue because my private life is my private life. And I think all the power to those who do kind of show everything. It was just a joint decision. But yes, I definitely think a lot about what I put out there. I don't think I put so much out there, but it depends who you ask.
Right.
So yeah, I think about it a lot.
So you have lines and you're like, I'm not going to cross this line. And here, if I'm getting close to it, I have to sort of decide
Absolutely. I mean, I have my children to think about. I mean, I'm sure I'm sure I would have a much bigger potty mouth if I didn't have my children, to think about because I don't want to be an embarrassment.
Right. I'm embarrassing my children at all times. First of all, just in general. And the fact that the fact that I have a podcast that occasionally talks about like gynecology, they can't stand me. They just, this is like so humiliating for them. But I guess I just don't care. I don't know.
I guess it's also different. Listen, you can put yourself out there with the best of intentions, right? I mean, I think about that and I actually spoke with someone before and they're like, Fortune, as long as your intentions are pure, right? As long as you're not, going out there like with intentions of anything else other than trying to like make a difference or bring joy, then you're okay. But, unfortunately in the world that we're presently living in, the people that are watching don't always respond to it the way that you intended it to be. So I think, more than ever, I try to be mindful and respectful.
On top of that, even not just about yourself and your personal life, but just your personal motivation, like we're talking about, whether it's a cause, like, a charity type of cause or something that one should do, or just these ideas of, characteristics, for example, gratitude. And how do you decide what you're going to write about, what you're going to post about? Is it just sort of what you're feeling on that time, or is it you look sort of what's going on in the world and you want to make a difference? How do you make those decisions?
Both. It's a feeling. It has to feel authentic, kind of feel it inside of you. In terms of monthly content in general, I have certain things that I post about each month. So I try to have like at least 2 posts a month for fashion, for beauty, for travel, recipes, wellness, and that's kind of what I go by. But then, kind of ideas come to me, you're inspired. And then in terms of like, if I'm going through some kind of emotional experience and I feel like, well, maybe if I post this, I can help someone, then I will, because you want there to be some substance involved in what you're doing.
Have any of those ever backfired on you, where you posted something and afterwards you're like, oh, I didn't intend for it to be that way?
A handful of times I've gotten like weird stuff.
Right.
But most of the time it's just, I kind of ignore it because it's just silly.
Right. I mean, you could look at it 2 ways. The people who send you something that's a little like ridiculous, they could choose to unfollow you. It's not like they're not forced to hear you.
Exactly.
Right. Whereas someone who's maybe very loyal and very, they feel connected to you, another, they may feel that they are able to communicate with you that it was something that didn't resonate with them or something that resonated in the wrong way.
Exactly.
Sort of that they feel like they do have a relationship with you that's real.
Yeah, listen, it sucks, but sometimes it's also an opportunity to reflect. In the moment it could hurt, but then you kind of think about it. Well, is what that person's saying, is there any truth to it? Can I, do something different? I think I once posted something that was maybe a luxury item, and it is a luxury blog, but she said, how many people can afford that? And I was like, okay, let me kind of add in some more affordable items. So, I do try to listen and hear what my followers say.
No, I think that is really important, because you're essentially doing this for them.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you're posting some of it's yourself. It's, it's cathartic. It's nice to post. And it definitely, is something healthy for you to do. But ultimately, you're there for your followers.
Exactly.
And if there's something that they need and you're not giving them, then and you can, I think that's fantastic. Do you feel a sense of responsibility now? I mean, because here you are, you're one person and you started this initially with products and fashion, and now you have thousands and thousands of people who tune into you every day. Does that?
Not really, because there's so many of us and I'm just one person with one opinion. I'm not the end all. It's not fact. This is just my life and things that I like and things that work for me. And I think it's really, up to whoever's following you to decide whether or not they want to take what I'm kind of putting out there.
I think you're playing it down. I think it's much more powerful than that. I think that people really get a lot from you, and the choices that you make are important, and you're making good choices. I mean, I'm saying that in a good way, but it is important. And the fact that you choose to not just, talk about, travel and recipes and products, which is amazing, and people want to hear about that you're throwing in things about life itself and people are responding to it. I mean, I read it and I was drawn to it immediately. I said, wow, this is so cool. I don't know anything about products, right? I mean, it's like, It's totally over my head. I know nothing about it.
Right.
Travel's fine and recipes, but I sort of skimmed through a bunch of them. And I just thought that these are really important ideas that you're bringing up. And that's what was so fascinating to me, that you chose to do that, because you could have easily chosen not to do it. You could have said, why would I do that?
Right.
Who wants to hear that from me? But people do. People are yearning for this type of information and this type of, relationship with somebody. And that's what I started getting at, that here you are. You're like, you are now like this life coach for people through what you're doing. It's not maybe one-on-one.
I guess I just don't see myself like that. Sometimes it's easier for people like you to see from the outside, but I'm just here doing my thing.
I see that there's, for whatever reason, there must be this void that so many of us feel in the world, that they're not getting it. We're not getting it, whether it's we're not getting it in school, whether we're not getting it from religion, whether we're not getting it from what we read or from television or for our work or whatever it is, this sort of search for something deeper and more important, because, everyone flips through their phones and it's all garbage, right? We know that. Everyone knows that it's all like nonsense. But occasionally you come upon something and they say, oh, this is, like you said, it's real. Like, this is important. And people stop and they read it. And I think that is such a new phenomenon in our lives. We didn't have anything like this as kids. There was nothing even remotely like this.
No.
That you could
Agreed.
sort of decide what you're going to hear about. Again, if you're lucky enough to have it on television, or some speaker came to your, church or synagogue or school or whatever. But here, everyone has access and people can choose who they want to be inspired by.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Who do you follow?
For fashion, I follow this influencer. Her name is Pamela Tick, who I just think is the coolest. And does like a lot of travel and fashion. I'm like trying to think right now, who do I follow? Adi Heyman, who I think is just a wonderful voice for the Jewish people. She's also a very cool fashionista. Elizabeth Savetsky also.
Right. I'm interviewing her next.
Yeah.
All right. And Adi's supposed to come on in a
no
few
way.
weeks. Yeah. We're circling dates.
Well, okay. They're just like forces to be reckoned with. And so I look up to them because their voice is so powerful. And I think that they just represent the Jewish people, like I said, in such a positive way. Like, they give an amazing voice to us. So like in that area, I love them. And they're also fun and witty. There's also another influencer who I love. Her name is Michal Curtis. She's also a fashion influencer, but I love her as much for her style as I do for her witty captions. So she's super cool. I actually started working in terms of like wellness. I started working with Boundless Creative. I had seen a intentions journal on this other influencer. It's like one thing leads to another. Her name is High End Sweat. And I'd always wanted to kind of write in an intentions journal, which is like manifestation and writing your intentions and all this like positivity and kind of like how to create this life. And so I also follow them. They give great tips on all different sorts of well-being and spiritual kind of wellness. So who else do I follow? I feel like I follow so many people I can't really think.
No, that's like you mentioned your religion. Did your upbringing in a Jewish family have any impact on this, more sort of your spirituality and your outlook in life and sort of what you're thinking about? Or is it just maybe peripheral to this?
I definitely think that your upbringing, whether or not on a conscious or subconscious level, has something to do with kind of how I look at this, but I think it's also my own personal journey as much as my Judaism.
Do you post directly about religion and Judaism and, comment on it, or?
I don't do it often because I feel like I still need to develop my voice in that area. But I do post because I feel like, unfortunately, we're living in a world where anti-Semitism is on the rise. And how can I not say something? It's so sad to me to see. First of all, it's sad to see any kind of racism, any kind of racial bias go on. But, I have to be a voice. Everybody is a voice to their own people. And I need to be a voice for my own people. And so I have begun to put myself out there. And that's one of the reasons why I'm in such awe of Elizabeth and Adi.
Yeah.
Because they do it so well.
Yeah. No, I think it is important because, again, this is how people consume information now. And when influencers like you are willing and be able to post in a way that is provocative, informative, educational, inspiring, and not every post has to be all of those, but some of those, it's just an important way that you change the world a little bit at a time. This is, and who would think, right? That it comes from just like someone's, oh yeah, I'll play some products and I'll do this and it's nice and it's interesting and it's fun, that you really end up having such an impact. And you have a huge impact when you post about things like nutrition or exercise or, mental health and the idea of, clearing your head space and all of these things, positivity, that really makes people live better and they have healthier, more fulfilling lives because of that, just from a blog you're going to write.
It's interesting though, because I see that when I'm posting about positivity or when I'm posting about anxiety, it's things that I'm working on. And I think that a lot of times when you see people posting, it's because they're kind of going through this process. So I was just thinking about that the other day. Gratitude. I think when I write about gratitude, it's because I myself am on a journey of being more mindful about gratitude. And I'm not sure if I'm 100% right with this, but I think that when you see people writing about all this kind of stuff, I think they're on their own journey as well. Like, I'm not sure that everybody has it together, but we're all working towards the same goal.
Yeah. And I think that there is this idea that the people either who are our leaders or the people who we look up to or the people who we have learned about, whether it's, again, friends of ours, whether it's political, whether it's family members, even like biblical characters, whoever it is, they're flawed, right? There isn't this idea of the perfect person that everyone did things that were right.
Well, I have a funny story to tell you, because when my kids were younger, I went to Michal, your wife, to speak. And she said, Fortune, you don't think your kids are perfect, do you? And I was like, actually, I do. And she was like, well, I hate to break it to you, but they're not. And, but besides them, I think even my therapist once told me, she's like, Fortune, stop trying to reach for perfection. You're never going to be perfect. She's like, what you want in life is to feel grounded amidst the storm. When there's like this unsettledness in your life, to feel grounded, to feel at peace. And that is what I would love for myself and for everyone else.
We're not going to reach perfection. It just doesn't work in our own health, in our own mental health, in our own, fulfillment and how we behave ourselves. We're always going to make mistakes. We're going to do things wrong. But this idea of thinking about being better,
yes.
Again, thinking about and trying to improve ourselves and to improve our situation and to prove what's going on is a part of that. And even just feeling like you're on the right journey is itself satisfying. It gives you that sense of, fulfillment and contentment, like I'm doing the right thing or I'm trying to do the right thing at least, as opposed to I'm just lost.
And knowing that you can mess up in the process and that it's okay. And that's also something that I'm learning, to be gentle with myself through this process of trying to be my best self.
Right. Where do you see the future for what you're doing? Do you have any expectations or plans?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay.
Because they say, here today, gone tomorrow. But, I'm lucky because I have my site, I have my Instagram, so I'm not kind of holed into one area. And I also have another part of my business, which is I host events, fashion events for brands. So that's also a huge part of what I do. So I kind of am evolving and going with it and seeing where life takes me.
Now that your kids are getting older, do their friends follow you?
They do. And it makes me so happy.
How do your kids feel about that?
I think as my kids have gotten older, well, I think my two older girls are kind of more okay with it.
Right.
I'll tell them, your friend, I just saw her, she, is following me, and they're okay with it. But my son, who's a sophomore, sometimes he'll see me posting something silly. He's like, you can't do that. And I'm like, why? They're like, because my friends see it. And I'm like, so I can't remember like what I was doing that he said, just don't post that, Mom.
Because they see you obviously as their friend's mom, right? And the one end, but also they have a direct relationship to you through this medium. And that's an interesting dynamic.
I get it. I was definitely, embarrassed from my parents a lot. So I try to be sensitive to that. But at the same time, it's like, you want to put yourself out there and you're just want to have fun. So, like I said, it's a fine balance.
Fortune, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. I do think what you're doing is fascinating. I really do. It's so interesting. And again, I have no connection to the world of fashion. I am like the anti-fashion. I am like, horrific.
What do you mean? These are the coolest scrubs I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, these are product placement, gray scrubs. That's where it's at. These are the finest scrubs you'll find.
Seriously.
But I just love it, and I'm just so interested by the idea of what's going on in the world with this, and how so many people turn to you and people like you, and what kind of influence you have, not just on what they purchase, but on how they think and how they behave and how they interact with the world. And I mean, all the power to you. I think it's amazing that you do that and you take such, care and you're so thoughtful about it. I think it's awesome.
Well, I hope that my followers feel as passionate as you do. And I can't thank you enough for having me. Like I said, this is my first podcast. I'm super excited.
You crushed it. You did great.
I was so nervous.
You're going to have one of your own soon before you know. Please have me as a guest.
Oh, yes. My co-host, Dr. Nathan Fox.
That's me. Yeah, it'll be great. But he'll be talking about scrubs.
Exactly.
Amazing. All right. Well, listen, we're gonna definitely stay in touch. Thank you so much. And I look forward to reading you and seeing about you and then seeing you in person as well.
Happy Purim.
To you too.
Thank you for listening to the Healthful Woman podcast. To learn more about our podcast, please visit our website at www.healthfulwoman.com. That's HEALTHFULWOMAN.com. If you have any questions about this podcast or any other topic you would like us to address, please feel free to email us at hw@healthfulwoman.com. Have a great day. The information discussed in Healthful Woman is intended for educational uses only and does not replace medical care from your physician. Healthful Woman is meant to expand your knowledge of women's health and does not replace ongoing care from your regular physician or gynecologist. We encourage you to speak with your doctor about specific diagnoses and treatment options for an effective treatment plan.